Well, I guess no introduction is needed for the sake of the cameras. My name is Paul Madore. For years, I stood at the head of the Maine Grassroots Coalition. We were a political action committee responsible for the success of many state ballot initiatives, including referendums and statewide political campaigns. The most recent one, we had headed the effort to Ron Paul. Brought him to the convention, and you know the rest of the story. So, we know how to win, we know how to lose. This one we never wanted to lose. We never wanted to lose the sexual orientation laws, but what I have to tell you today will give you a window into why that may have happened. It's an unpleasant task. The head of my press advisory reads unfinished business. Several years ago, between the years of 2000 and 2006, several stout-hearted traditional Catholics throughout the state of Maine worked to expose the covert sexual activity of several Catholic priests actively serving in Maine parishes throughout the Portland Diocese. As a result of these efforts of these courageous Catholics, and in part through the exposure of a website run by Father John Harris, the notorious Father John Harris. The site was known as St. Sebastian's website. It was a meeting place for sexually active homosexual priests from all over the country. We had bishops, we had cardinals in there. As embarrassing as that is, so Harris, started the website. It was his brainchild. He served at Holy Rosary in Sabattis and was quickly shuttled to northern Maine, as they often do when there's controversy like that, while they investigated. And he didn't last long, maybe perhaps a year and a half or so, and then left the state at night, in the middle of the night, literally, in the middle of the night. So the homosexual activity of several diocesan priests became exposed through this website. However, several priests who revealed their sexuality in animated exchanges on the web with other priests and bishops throughout America and beyond went undetected. I say beyond because it went into the international community. The cardinal that I speak of, Cardinal LePage, came from Africa. He was abusing young boys who were altar servers. They did so with the help of so these priests that were from Maine went undetected. When the site was exposed, it was like a 52 pickup routine, and many scattered. And they went undetected as a result of insiders who were entrusted by then Bishop Joseph Gary to sort out the contents of the notorious website and report to the Bishop Joseph on the harm that these perpetrators had caused. Bishop Joseph never examined the website himself, of the St. Sebastian website, and so he was unable to determine objectively the severity of the scandal. These homosexually tempted priests and advocates of the homosexual lifestyle, and not exposed or implicated in the homosexual sex scandal, cowardly continued to undermine the faith of the Catholic laity by inoculating them against Catholic tradition, as they had been doing for years and continue to do so today, on matters such as same-sex marriage and the Roman Church's teaching on sexual morality. When I first thought of holding the press conference and dialoguing with Mike about my concerns, I was going to take aim at other religious churches, perhaps, and leaders not too far from this great hall, and hold them into accountability. Then I started thinking for a moment, before you start metaphorically throwing stones at others, why don't you clean up your own house? Catholics do that, We look at the church as being the sacred deposit of faith, and it's our faith. It's where we find the salvation that God wills for us through these leaders. And yet, many of these leaders were continued after the great scandal to offend God and mislead Catholics and misrepresent the Church's teaching on sexual morality. were tumultuous years, some of the most difficult years I've had to endure in my life. I had a house full of children, I had a loving wife who was left to care for them alone oftentimes, and I partnered with Mike and many other courageous leaders to bring this to the forefront. So we got rid of a lot of homosexual priests, excuse my English here, but they didn't all leave. Many of them went into hiding. These men are cowards. They're cowards because they don't have the courage to declare what they actually believe. Instead, they twist and contort the church's teaching so it becomes absolutely meaningless. And they're active in our diocese today. There's at least 15 of them today that I could mention to you unabashedly, but I'm not going to mention them because I want them to have the courage to come out themselves and tell Maine Catholics and the bishop, whom we haven't seen for quite some time now, what they really believe. So these disobedient priests who act as if they are beyond reproach have decided to go hide while choosing to reject the Roman Church's teaching on Catholic tradition and sexual morality. They have been busy inoculating traditional Catholics on the Church's teaching on sexual morality, and it's having devastating effects. It's making non-traditional Catholics incompatible with traditional Catholics. We are now in the back of the bus in many of our parishes. Those Catholics who are here today will vouch for that. So what effect did this priestly betrayal have on the pro-homosexual initiatives to legalize same-sex marriage here in the Maine Diocese? Think about it. When you've got the charism of a Roman Catholic priest is to teach, lead, and sanctify. If they're not leading Catholic faithful to the front lines to defend marriage, what are they doing? I'll tell you what they're doing. And many of these priests, at the head of parishes throughout the Roman diocese, became deathly silent. They became very, very silent for the first time perhaps in their priestly ministries, on the teaching of sexual morality and on the teaching of vis-a-vis protecting same-sex marriage as being a relationship between a man and a woman, one lifetime, one man, one woman, one lifetime. So what effect did this priestly betrayal have on the initiative to legalize same-sex marriage in the diocese, and more importantly, on the effects of Bishop Richard Malone's efforts to stop same-sex marriage and the attack against traditional marriage? How many Roman Catholic priests are there working today throughout the diocese that are actively involved today in this cabal to help homosexuals achieve a full liberation status within the church, and anxious to have them assume places of honor at the church for celebrations? This is already underway. Parishes who are more vigilant, lay Catholic faithful who are more vigilant, some of them are prepared to say something, but a lot of them have had it. And they would prefer to head for the door rather than to stand the grief of some of their fellow Catholics, and maybe even of some priests who support these individuals, these practicing homosexuals that really deeply offend God and are contrary to Catholic teaching and Catholic life. So you see the conflict that's taking place here is very serious. And it's going about as if nobody even cares. And a lot of people do care. Up until today, I was director of a very promising school in Lewiston named Alpine Academy. We've been together for 3 years, and I resigned from the post because of the controversy that I know this will cause. I want to apologize publicly to my sons and daughters for the grief that they will have to have a father that stands here and is willing to tell the truth. But it's never been easy. Nobody said it would be easy. So how many disobedient priests do we have that are actively but hopefully working here in Maine to make homosexuality acceptable in mainstream society? Prior to the scandal, I'm sorry for talking so loud here, but prior to the scandal, there were upwards of 40 to 50% of the priests in our diocese that were sympathetic to the homosexual lifestyle and actually ran interference for practicing homosexuals and advocated, where it was convenient, the passing of sexual orientation laws and same-sex marriage laws. So they've been working in the background, in the quiet, and in the not so quiet, dismantling what the church fundamentally teaches and believes. How will the laity respond to these and other scandals once these militant Catholic priests succeed in their radical campaign to normalize homosexuality in church life in our Maine diocese? These and other important questions I will try to answer as we enter into a Q&A. I'll be available after to speak to the press if they have any interest at all in discussing this matter. I'm glad that this is, as I said, I titled my presentation today, Unfinished Business. We were so exhausted in exposing the scandal back in the early 2000s that we didn't have the energy or the political will, and our families were hurting as a result of the scandal, but we're back again, at least I am anyway. So I thank you for your time. God bless you all. Thank you.